All right, got a big exam on federalism coming up? You can relax, you are in exactly the right place. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down everything you absolutely need to know, super clear and super fast. Let's dive right in.
So, let's kick things off with a huge question. Just think about a country like India, so massive, so incredibly diverse. How on earth do you even begin to govern a place like that effectively? Well, the answer, and the main topic for us today, is a system called federalism.
Okay, so what is this thing, federalism? Let's make it simple. Instead of having one single, all-powerful government trying to manage everything from the top down, federalism divides up the power. You've got a central government that looks after big national issues, and then you have state governments managing their own specific regions. It's all about sharing the workload. To really get a grip on this, it actually helps to look at the opposite. In a federal system, like we have in India or the US, power is shared between different levels. But in what's called a unitary system, like in France or England, pretty much all the power is held by just one central government. The key difference is that federalism shares power vertically, from the national level down to the states, and even further down to the local level. Every system needs a rule book, right? And federalism is no different. So let's break down the 7 key features that make a federal system what it is. Think of these as the fundamental rules of the game that you'll want to remember. First up, you've got to have at least 2 levels of government, like a national and a state level. Now here's the cool part. Even though they're governing the exact same citizens, each level has its own jurisdiction. It's a bit of a fancy word, but all it means is their own specific area of control and responsibility. And this isn't just some informal agreement. It's all spelled out right there in the Constitution. And get this, you can't just change these fundamental rules whenever you want. To make a big change to the Constitution, you need both the central and state governments to agree. But, what happens when they can't agree on something? Well, that brings us to the next point. The courts step in as the referee to interpret the Constitution and settle any arguments. This is such a great way to remember it. Seriously. Just think of the courts, or the judiciary, as the umpire in a cricket match. When the different levels of government, the different teams, if you will, disagree, the judiciary makes the final call based on the rule book, which is the Constitution. If you can remember courts as the umpire, you've totally got this concept down. And finally, it comes down to 2 big things: money and purpose. To make sure each level of government can actually do its job, the Constitution clearly says where each one gets its money from. And what's the whole point of all this? Well, there are 2 main goals. First, to keep the country united and strong. And second, to respect and make space for all the incredible regional diversity that exists. It's a balancing act. So how does India put all this into practice? India is what we call a holding together federation. That just means a big, pre-existing country decided to divide its power between the national government and its states. Why? To govern more efficiently and to better manage all its diversity. Okay, pay close attention here, because this slide is pure gold for your exam. You absolutely have to know these 3 lists. You've got the union list for stuff that affects the entire nation, like defense or currency. Then you've got the state list for local matters, like police or agriculture, because what works for one state might not work for another. And finally, the concurrent list for topics of common interest, like education, where both the central and state governments can make laws. Here's a quick but really important side note. What about things that didn't even exist when the Constitution was written, like cyber law or the internet? Well, these leftover topics are called residuary subjects, and the power to make laws about them goes to the central government. Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the national and the state level. Now let's zoom all the way down to the ground, down to your city or your village. we need to talk about the third tier of government and this idea of decentralization.
So, what exactly is decentralization? Honestly, it's just what it sounds like. It's the process of taking some power and authority away from the governments at the top and handing it over to local governments, like your city or village council.
But why even bother doing this? Well, the logic behind it is simple and it's just powerful common sense. Who knows the problems of a village better than the people who actually live there? The whole idea is that local problems are best solved by local people.
Now, the real game changer for local government in India happened in 1992 with a major constitutional amendment. This was huge. All of a sudden, local elections became mandatory. Seats were reserved to make sure marginalized communities and women had a voice, and, crucially, state governments were now required by law to share both their power and their money with these local bodies.
And what was the result of that 1992 amendment? Just look at this number, 3.6 million. That's how many elected local leaders we have in India today. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's more people than the entire population of many countries. It is a truly massive experiment in grassroots democracy.
So, let's get specific. How is all of this structured, especially out in the rural areas? This system is called the Panchayati Raj, and you'll definitely need to know how it's put together for your exam.
Think of it like a three-level pyramid, building from the bottom up. At the very base, for a single village or a small group of villages, you have the Gram Panchayat, which is headed by a Sarpanch. Then a bunch of Gram Panchayats get together to form the next level up, the Panchayat Samiti. And finally, all the Panchayat Samitis within a district combine to form the top tier, the Zila Parishad.
So as we wrap this up, just remember, federalism isn't some dry, abstract idea you just read about in a textbook. It's the living, breathing operating system that allows a country as massive and complex as India to actually function day to day. And that leaves us with one final thought to ponder. What happens when this delicate balance of power is truly put to the test?